Hi, Melissa Bill, and welcome to the Business Roundup, where we catch up with the movers and shakers in the business industry. Today, joining me is Colin Cooper and Meghan Freeman, both co-founders and co-CEOs of Illuminate XR. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Now, I know AI and a lot of these things, it's making an impact in learning and just many different industries across, the nation and the globe. I mean, and people, the more AI and new technology is coming out, the more we have to learn more about how to use it, how to, um, use digital adoption across different industries. And sometimes that can be frustrating for, I would say, me. I'm like a little bit of an older generation, so I had to learn a lot, where the younger Gen Zs and stuff were showing me, it's like so easy for them. So we'll start off a little bit by maybe just a brief background, what are your backgrounds? Like, tell us a little bit about yourselves and, what got you started in technology.
Go on, Meg, you go first.
All right. Well, my name's Meghan, as you said. I have been honored to serve in the public education sector for 25 years. So started my tenure in the classroom and moved my way up into many ranks of administration. My most recent tenure was founding a non-classroom based California Distinguished Charter School called Elite Academic Academy in 2018. Really proud of the work that we did in that space, and was lucky enough to meet Colin in my tenure. I've always been someone who has been championing for positive change. And as technology has come to the forefront and is here, AI, VR, XR are a part of the future of children, making sure that we as the adults in the education space are taking time to learn, discover pedagogy, ensure the human dynamic and human side of the technology, and allow for innovation and creation to lead so that students can benefit.
And my background started when I was 13. My dad had just bought a brand new Olivetti computer. It was back in 1993. He went to work on the weekend, and I was a curious teenager and pulled it apart. When he got home from work, it was in bits, and he gave me two choices: that I was either going to lose my pocket money for the rest of my life at 13, that's a huge deal, or fix it. So I stayed up all night and fixed the computer, and by the morning it was working better than what it was. And at that point I fell in love with code, math, binary, and then went on, started my first business at 18, and just continued to do multiple businesses since then. Worked very heavily in the education space, and working with people like Meghan and schools to try and bridge this gap between what the real world of business needs to what actually is being taught in schools. And so that's some of my background.
And now how did you come together? I know you met when you were in California, correct?
We did. I was we became together as a part of a think tank. Colin and I met through a mutual connection who saw the shakeup that's happening, and going to be happening for years as technology is advancing at such a rapid pace, and put together a team of people that he felt were movers and shakers, as you said, Melissa, who would actually confront the brutal facts and look at what our wonderful teachers who are working so hard need to find success in a day and age where we're seeing years and years of growth, even in months time frame, where we just can't keep up. And so Colin and I were lucky enough to be on this think tank together. We were looking at global answers and global solutions for students in the TK through 12 realm throughout the world. And through that partnership, we started to form a really wonderful friendship, and that led to a consulting contract for our non-classroom based school, where Colin and I worked to bring in partners such as Meta and Logitech to allow for our credentialed teachers in TK through 12 begin to develop and explore what the potentials of technology could be. We really allowed it to be a Socratic experience. It was a year-long professional development with over 50 to 60 hours of play, designed play, where staff was allowed to fail forward, meet the frustrations of the technology, experience the quirkiness of anything new. Being in the middle of a lesson when all of a sudden the headset updates, talking about the importance of all of the little pieces that make technology magical and also can make it frustrating, and really worked with the staff to design not only policy and procedure, but to light the fire of what technology can do when partnered with good quality teachers. Teachers are at the heart of every student. And if you close your eyes, I bet you can remember your favorite teacher to this day. And it might not necessarily be the math that he or she taught you, but it sure was how they make you feel. And when technology is able to allow for a teacher to differentiate or scaffold instruction or create a personalized pathway for a student so they get re-engaged with a concept and gives them time, the beauty of this technology is eventually and hopefully it will allow for teachers to have more time to build and foster relationship, which is what students need the most. But Colin and I were so lucky to tackle this problem and work together with a very forward-thinking staff to develop and create. And I'm so proud of them for not being scared and being vulnerable enough to challenge and express their frustrations.
And now, so for people who like don't know about the company, so what do you mainly, what are some of the services? What do you kind of address? I know it's education primarily, but you're going to kind of branch out to other industries, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Illuminate XR, we focus on two key areas. So it's combining AI with virtual reality or XR technologies. The four key industries that we're working in primarily at the moment is education, but we are working in medical. We are branching into business as well as also into defense. Like what Meg was talking about, you know, I've worked in the space with AI and VR now for over 15, 16 years. And if you look at the last just 4 years of where the technology has leaped forward and the progression that we've been able to have, it's really closed this gap between empowering teachers and others to be able to individualize lessons to students. So for example, you know, virtual reality is fantastic for working with students that say have dyslexia, because you can create these virtual type environments in learning, and it's in a very creative space. So you're meeting the students or whoever is going through that to where they're at and creating these individual experiences. But those are the main areas that we're able to work with in designing custom training, custom curriculum, and being able to layer on top of what's already in place in schools like Elite and others.
And now for schools, how is it working to prepare students, you know, for the world? Because like right now, I mean, like I was mentioning, I, you know, come from, you know, computers were just starting out, you know, it took forever to get online, but, you know, everything now is like fast. I mean, it's just, and it changes, you know, all the time. So how is this helping to prepare students and these teachers?
I think that's the big question, especially right now when you have a future where jobs are uncertain as the technology is advancing. We're responsible for making sure that students are prepared for a future that we don't really know what jobs are there. So that's the big challenge. And I think the focus in IXR is focusing on those softer skills, those 21st century skills, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, because if students are able to possess those skills, then no matter what problem is put in front of them, they will have the skill set to be able to jump in and try. And I think one of the biggest shakeups in public education is now students have access to technology that's often smarter than the human at their fingertips. So for a long time, we've had the teachers being responsible for direct instruction, and now we have technology that has the potential to influence our children in a very quick, fast-paced environment. So teachers are in a space where they need to learn to accept that this is here and really work to make sure that we are preparing them and the students with those soft skills. So while we can focus on hard skills like Common Core Standards or NGSS, where we're still making sure students have strong foundational skills, it is also through this technology that we're really incorporating the critical thinking, the higher level thinking skills, those softer skills that are going to be necessary and AI proof. The human side is so important, and the human connection and the ability to cooperatively work with a team or critically think through a problem or effectively communicate are going to be skills that are going to be more essential and more important as we see these jobs coming where some of maybe the foundational basic skills can be done by technology. The humans that are going to be getting into the workforce need to be really pros and very proficient at these soft skills so they can effectively communicate with the other humans while managing what maybe a machine is doing.
Makes sense. And like you pointed out too, not being frustrated, because you were saying to teachers, sometimes not to be afraid to, be frustrated and working through those type of things
So much.
Absolutely.
is
It's,
important.
when you look at the changes that are coming through, I think, that there's a lot of different predictions at the moment. Some people are turning around and saying that there's going to be 100 million job losses, there's going to be 300, or there's going to be 30%. I think what we need to have a look at is over the next 5 years, we are going to see a lot of change in jobs being lost, but new jobs created. We're starting to see chief AI officer jobs starting to come up for the first time. I think one of the predictions and the stats which I've seen the most of is probably the most accurate, that over the next 5 years, about 30% of the current jobs that we have today in admin or finance or HR will be automated. And that's very exciting, but it also can be very scary. Whereas my advice would be on this is that if you can then start to look at AI and technologies like virtual reality as a tool and start to retrain, you're not going to be out of a job, because then you're going to be needed, because as new jobs change, and it's then focusing on the humanity piece. We've been living in for decades now in the age of knowledge, and now we're stepping into the age of humanity, where we are looking at these softer skills of being more curious, being more creative, being able to be emotionally intelligent and critical thinking, and having that adaptability. And so for schools, but it's not just a thing that needs to happen in schools, it needs to happen in businesses as well. So we need to approach this from both ends of the bridge, if you will. And that's one of the things that we are trying to tackle at IXR.
Absolutely.
And now, what are some of the benefits of virtual reality in education? You kind of went over a few of them.
So there's a lot to be studied, but one of the first initial is just immersion, right? Allowing for a student to be able to be immersed in learning. When the 2D environment or the exploration of the impossible, letting a student travel back in time and experiencing what it was like to be with Shakespeare, or sitting on the bus with Rosa Parks, or traveling through the world and visiting the beach if you've never been there, or going to Paris if you've never been there, allowing students to let the world be their classroom. And the reality of that before was you were able to watch a video, but you weren't immersed. And in the beauty of VR and XR, specifically with AI support, you're able to really allow for a child to experience what it was like to be in a time period, to travel to another location and immerse themselves in a culture. The level of empathy that you can develop from a student when they feel immersed in an experience is there. Imagine going to Anne Frank's home and interviewing her on what it would have been like. You can read about it, which makes you have initial responses, but being immersed and seeing a replica of where she was, and being able to speak to an AI character that's trained to answer with the educational's belief of what's true, will allow for a student to not only just learn, but experience what it was like. And those are pieces that stay with you. And so at IXR, we are tackling some of the harder pieces. We have developed a lot of students fear public speaking, specifically many neurodivergent students getting up in front of their peers to speak. But we know that's a skill set that's so important for the future. So in IXR, we have developed a platform where they can go in a safe environment and practice on a stage with their peers and be able to slowly immerse themselves into the public speaking realm, having AI characters that are their coaches and some of the best TED talkers, being able to show them and have them immersed in that experience. So with the end result of transferability outside of the VR, they then their brain will think it was real. And so the ability for them to practice and then be able to transfer that skill to real life in front of their peers, hopefully will lower some of that affective filter, lower some of that anxiety, and allow for students that may have really struggled with proficiency to gain proficiency in skills that are notoriously hard for anybody. There's a big fear in business about public speaking. And it's a big area for most humans that we need to really go in and develop. And through IXR, we are using all of the best metacognition and neuroscience to create experiences that allow for learners to go in and tackle some of their greatest challenges.
Yeah, I will second that. I took public speaking and when I was in college and I did not like it. I mean, I do pretty good like doing the questions and asking the questions, but when I have to go and give a full, presentation, it definitely it's nerve-wracking even, for me. So I could see these kids. My daughter is not she does not like it either. And I'm like, you have to do this because this is really important to be able to communicate in business, just all throughout your life it's going to be important.
It's life-changing. I think it's one of those skills that, I think it's in the top 5 scariest skills to learn. But if you can learn public speaking and to be able to communicate and tackle that with emotional intelligence, it's absolutely, truly life-changing, especially now, the world that we're moving into.
And how do you see, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and at IXR, we're trying to tackle all the challenges. Another area we're tackling is algebra. So algebra is the number one failed class in the nation. It's kind of oftentimes the gatekeeper for a high school student to be able to graduate. And so we are getting really creative, and through the narrative research, using the art of the storytelling to allow for students to get immersed into a story through VR and learn math. And so we are being very innovative and creative and really trying to go in and tackle some of the harder challenges to support the wonderful teachers in getting students to increase proficiency.
Yeah, that's another one too. And organic science was not fun, but like even like the
Yes.
chemistry, some of these. So that's I'm sure it like helps the kids retain it because they're kind of like you're pointing out, they're immersed in it. So it's all for people who are more hands-on and not just able to learn by watching. I think that's. Do you think that would be like more, I guess, an efficient way for those type of learners to really like soak up the education or, to be able to really understand it?
Absolutely. It's different studies have come out and shown that it's up to 75% retention rate within a VR environment, and I think that's quite different depending on how it's set up. But even some of the earlier studies are showing over 50%, which is 200 or 300% more than what's happening in the classroom. It's like what Meghan was saying. It's really hard to learn about empathy on a textbook. But you can learn it when you see the world through someone else's eyes or you walk in their shoes, and you can do that in that virtual reality environment. Because as far as your brain is concerned, is that you are there, you're experiencing it. And where this technology is going over the next 3 to 5 years is that we're going to have more things where you can have that sense of smell. You've got the gloves where you can have that sense of touch, which are starting to they're being sold now. So you can put on a VR headset, put on these special gloves, and you can feel and things around you. Now, this is in its very early stages, in its infancy, but to one of the earlier points was we are now seeing over 12 months worth of technological growth every single month. So if you look at that over a 12-month window, we're seeing over 20 years of growth in many cases. So it's like, imagine going back in time to the internet. So today, you wake up, it's 1999, the internet is really just starting to kind of find its feet. There's thousands of search engines, and then tomorrow you wake up and we're here today. And that's the type of growth that we're starting to experience and see. And so having this more immersive experience, plus you've got no distractions, because when you're in that environment, you're not checking your phone, you're not wondering what someone else is doing, you're not looking out the window to watch the bus drive past or whatever else. And so you are capturing that attention in that environment, let alone all of the extra, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, that all of those beautiful chemicals that you're releasing into the brain to allow it to open up and to be able to learn new things. Because often when you're sitting in a classroom, you've got high amounts of cortisol, which is running through for different reasons. And it's very difficult for the brain to learn new things when you're in this state of fear or high alert. So naturally, you've got all of these just beautiful benefits.
And one of the big components of IXR is focusing on metacognition. So working with anybody who's going through our learning experiences to discuss how you learn and having honest conversations with who you are and what type of learner you are. And I think allowing for that to be a part of the learning process for students, for business members to own you know what, with this problem, this is how I will tackle it the best. And then exposing the students to other ways to problem solve or tackle an issue that their peers are doing, so that they can maybe push their envelopes a little bit, open their eyes to new different ways to problem solve, because those skills are going to be huge for them in the future. And if teachers or educators or business members can imagine this tool, where before there was a lot of direct instruction or the human was responsible, the teachers are currently responsible for the proficiency of their students. If they had a tool like a VR environment with AI support that was allowing for redundancy, where a teacher could be teaching a lesson, but they were to have a lab with VR where they could experience, immerse, and then have an AI chatbot or a tutor in there to encourage, to guide, to answer questions. Imagine the leaps of proficiency that will happen across the field. This is the beauty of the technology when the human is paired with it. I do believe one of the core and central foundations of IXR is the development of the human first, where the technology is used as a tool, whether it's through professional development, whether it's through proprietary creation of your own immersive events, expos. We've done so much work with everybody, but I do feel like this designed system of the human with VR and AI, when looking at proficiency of any skill, when you combine a system where we're able to have some redundancy, where you can explore it again, but in a different fashion, a different way, or you can ask a question that's uniquely yours without being embarrassed because it's between you and an AI. The ability for a human to be able to lower their affective filter, to attend, to be immersed, and then to actually learn the concept is going to exponentially increase.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know, because you don't have the same, anxieties. It's almost like talking to like somebody like secretive, like your secret friend. You're able to kind of confide these things and say, I don't really understand it that way. But because a lot of times when you're in school and the teacher's like, you raise your hand, that's the fear, is like, I'm going to say it wrong. I'm not going to understand it. And then kids just shut down and they don't want to like learn, and they just, like you're saying, the cortisol, it just kicks in and they just are not able to soak up the information.
And as a business leader, it's so funny because that's opposite of the real world. Some of your best business leaders have failed over and over again and will admit it out loud. And so it's so important that we allow for failure and messiness as a part of the learning process. It's normal and it should be celebrated, because through that productive struggle, the ability to look at something and humbly say, this is hard. I don't know how to solve this. Am I able to go? Where do I go for help? That skill is the skill. Those skills are the skills that the future leaders are going to need to embody.
So
It's
true.
in my different companies, one of the biggest challenges that we had was that we had to reskill new team members that were coming through, and I've personally hired over 1,000 people across 38 countries, and so this isn't just a US thing or a UK thing. This is in most cases it's an educational thing, and where people were scared about making mistakes, and so you have two challenges there. Either if a mistake is made, they cover it up, or they don't try enough to make a mistake, so you never progress forward. And so this whole mindset shift, we actually had a whole training segment on this, and when we used to bring new employees through and teach them the mindset that it's actually okay to fail. And what we actually do is it's not only just okay to fail, we celebrate it as a team. We talk about, okay, what did we learn? Because it's very difficult to learn new things when things are going well. But you can learn a huge amount about what to improve, what not to do, and how to move forward when you do fail. Whereas, as you were saying, in school, if the teacher says to you, okay, Colin, I want you to answer this, it's like the deer in headlights. It's like, what do I do now? And you don't want to make a mistake. And so if we can reframe that and have failure as a positive thing, and ask these questions of, okay, well, what did we learn today that we could not have learned if we got it right the first time? What did we learn because we failed? It's just a whole shift in mindset, and the business world desperately needs more of that.
These are all built into our framework. So we've taken all of the best of our years of experience. And the beauty of Colin and I together is my education experience with his business and tech experience make us a really powerful force for learning. how humans learn. We've spent our career really trying to perfect that art. And so working together to create technology to work alongside the human and develop our own proprietary framework and professional development to allow for any business or education entity to improve proficiency as a result is our goal. So our heart is with the learner. And we really want to create experiences that allow for that individual learner, whoever they are in whatever sector they are, to use the best of neuroscience and what we have to offer to allow for immersive experiences that are second to none.
Is this on a national level? Like, where could people find more information if they wanted to know more about it? And
the easiest thing is going to our website, which is on to illuminateXR.com. We are starting to release more information out into the form of podcasts and that. But the best thing would be right now, a lot of the curriculum that we've done and the training materials that we've done in the business sector or the medical sector is to just get in contact with us. We can walk you through the different demos of what we've done for others. I think one of the key things is as well is that we're in this global business society now, and whether it's in education, as Meghan was saying, regarding the classroom is your world now, and that's such a huge opportunity. But also the case for medical. I spent an awful lot of time in Australia, and in the medical field in Australia they've been using VR for over 15 years, because if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you need a specialist, often it's too far to go. It's too far to travel to the hospital. So virtual reality is being used for help with medical interventions. Recently in the UK, an operation was done through using the Apple Vision goggles in live theatre for working on someone. And we're seeing more and more of this happening. And so what this allows you to do is you're closing these gaps. So whether your team is remote or whether it's you're doing a training in a particular location, you can achieve that through using AI, virtual reality. But I think the secret sauce here is what we do at IXR is, as what Meghan was saying, is combining many, many years combined experience, which I'm not going to share, but many, many years of combined experience, being able to look at the education field, looking at the business field, and to be able to layer different curriculum and training and methodology and understanding how the brain works and tackling it at both ends, both with kids that are coming out of school, but also at the other end as well, that we can't necessarily wait for these kids to come out and help us fix the problems. We've also got training and frameworks that can help businesses right now that may be having problems and challenges in training. And so get in contact through our website.
Yeah, and we are a global company, so we're working internationally.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, and if people wanted to have more information, or if they wanted to actually do, you're saying there is like they can actually go through like walkthroughs where they just contact you through the website and ask about setting that up?
Absolutely. The way that we approach this is that not one size fits all. So sure, we've got our base framework and our proprietary framework and the experiences that we have, but each business and each school faces unique challenges, and so we don't necessarily believe that one size fits all. So what we like to do is get an understanding of what the people's needs are, and then we can then adapt different experiences and our framework to get the best outcome. The way that we look at this is that if you give people a whole lot of tech or a whole lot of experiences, it's often collecting dust upon the shelf, or you don't get a high adoption rate, and that doesn't help anyone. So what we're looking for is getting a high adoption rate, whether it's in business or in schools, because then you're getting the best effects that are being approached in the business for the learning or in the classroom for the students, and it's then being used over and over and over again.
So cater to that individual or that business or that school. It's very catered to that, what their needs are.
Absolutely. And our curriculum development, it can be, oftentimes layered on top of current adoptions. Most school districts have spent millions of dollars with adoptions. So we can create experiences that don't replace, but add depth and complexity to their adoptions. Or we have, canned options and sprints and field trips that will allow for students to get excited about the VR space. But I think what Colin said is so important. The key is the professional development. So really working with key decision makers on policy and procedure and how we're rolling this out, because ultimately we want to make sure that whoever receives it or the money that is spent, it's being implemented at the highest rate possible. And that's making sure that the adults, the teachers, the business owners in the room are using the technology to its fullest. And that's where really working with us to see what their needs are. We will make sure to deploy what we believe is a comprehensive package that allows for them to be very successful. Because as we said, our end user, the student, the employee, the medical student is benefits as a result.
Very true. Well, I definitely appreciate both of you joining us today. It has definitely been, I've learned a lot. And that's what I was saying. I'm new to some of it. AI, I'm getting used to. I'm using it for like audio and visual but virtual reality, I think it's just amazing, because before you could only really experience that type of thing when you went to like Disney World or some kind of, theme park where you could really have that. And now it's, gone from just being something very simple in the home to just, it's almost like you're in that other area or that other world. It's amazing. So
It is amazing.
I hope we can bring you back soon and just talk a little bit more. Do you have any like big things coming up, announcements or anything in the next couple of months?
We do. There's a couple that I'll leak, and Meghan might leak a couple too. We're working on one at the moment where we are using the latest Gen AI to be able to do live feedback. So, for example, if you're doing public speaking, you can get live feedback now from AI characters that we're training that are trained in public speaking. So that's one big one. There's another one that we're working on where we've completely customized our own AI to go integrate into Canvas, which also is supporting for teachers and students, and that's proprietary to us. So it's carrying on what's been learnt in the virtual reality environment, but also into the 2D or into the classroom as well. So you're getting that continuation. So you're not having a break in the learning, and it's giving teachers and business owners it can be used for, but primarily at the moment we're using it in schools. This 360-degree feedback loop where that the teacher can see where the students are at, and individually as well. So it's not just on a classroom. Nick, have you got one more?
I mean, there's so much.
Yeah.
We are currently going to be releasing some really new learning experiences, as I said, that are tackling some of the larger problems in the public education sector, so that teachers feel like they have a partner with IXR, someone who goes, oh yeah, I've struggled with this for years, and I'm so excited to try something new that might help me with this problem. I'm going to keep you a little excited. I did talk about algebra. I did talk about our Speak Up course, but we have some that are in our back pocket that I think are going to blow the sector away. And we're really thrilled about continuing to push the envelope and uniting the human with VR and AR for that end user to be the one who wins in the end.
Awesome. So maybe we can do that when you come back. You can kind of give us a little bit more on where that's at, what's going on, what exciting news is going on there.
Yes,
Yeah, we'd love that. Love to come back.
Thanks,
Thank
Melissa.
you very much. And really a pleasure meeting both of you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Business Roundup, where we always try to bring you interviews with some of the leading people in business, whether it be technology, finance, or energy. I hope you tune in. I hope you subscribe and listen, and we'll give you updates for new interviews that are coming up. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bill.